You don't need a luxury kitchen to prepare gourmet meals. I want it a little on the sticky side. With a modest kitchen and some standard equipment, you can cook food that you would be proud to serve. There is my shrimp. All you need is a few helpful kitchen techniques, the ability to follow a recipe, a passion for food, and a fascination with cooking. Just follow along the rib cage. That is so good. My name is Dennis. I really do live in a mobile home, in a trailer park, and this is my kitchen. I am feeling a little bit cheated this year, a little bit. While the rest of the country has been dealing with ice and snow and polar vortex, here in Southern California we're dealing with a drought. It's February, and last week the temperatures were in the low 70s and high 80s. I like to joke about California and say that we only have two seasons, summer and sort of summer. Well, this year all we've had is summer. We're dealing with a drought, okay, but winter, when it's rainy and cold, I like to be inside and enjoy eating soup. Well, I've been denied my opportunities of soup so far this year. However, starting on Wednesday, the latter half of the week, we're supposed to get some rain, maybe 3 or 4 days of rain. Soup weather is coming. So that's what I want to make today. I want to make soup, and I want to try this recipe. It's an Italian restaurant recipe for lentil and Italian sausage soup. It sounds like it'll be really good. So let's start making soup. This recipe uses a small amount of vegetables, like a 1/4 cup of each. And so I'm going to dice up some onions here. I don't know what the metric equivalents are, so what I did was I set my scale to grams, and I'll give you the weights. The recipe just says 1/4 cup. I'm cutting these lines close together because I want to dice. And normally when I'm making a soup, I use more onion than this. You could double or even triple the amount of vegetables going into this soup. Okay, and just cutting across to get a small dice. This is about 1/4 of an onion. That's about a 1/4 cup right there. And how many grams is that? Get my scale to turn on. That is 32 grams. 1/4 cup of onion is 32 grams. Next, I want to dice a stalk of celery. Same thing, I only need a 1/4 cup. And I want it diced small, so I'm going to cut my rib or stalk of celery here into thin strips, like a julienne. And then cutting close together down here into a little dice. Like so. And then how much have I got here? So that's about 3/4 of that rib or stalk of celery. That makes about a cup. 1/4 cup. 1/4 cup. How many grams is that? 30. So that's 30 grams. Get them all in there. 30 grams. No, 32. I figured it would be about the same as the onion. So that's 32 grams of celery. Next, I need to dice some carrot. This I've peeled, washed and peeled. Some people just kind of scrape or even just wipe their carrot down. And the same thing, I'm going to cut that into a julienne so I have smallish pieces. Okay. Let's see what a 1/4 cup of this weighs. Probably a little bit more because this is denser than celery or onion. No, 32 grams again. So there's my vegetables, 1/4 cup of each. I have a couple of Italian sausages here. These, I'm using 2. You can use 2 to 3. These are rather large, so I'm using 2. These weigh 228 grams. And what I want to do is slice through the casing and remove it. Normally what you would do, the way the recipe says to work with this, is to fry it and break it up. But I'm going to try something different. This is my own modification. I'm going to cut these into little pieces, kind of like little meatballs, and just work with these whole as little Italian sausage morsels. It's going to be a little bit tricky to work with, but I enjoy a challenge. So I have both of these to cut up, and then I can start sautéing my vegetables and meat. As usual, as I work along, I get some ideas. These might be a little bit hard to work with because they're going to stick together. So I put some panko in a little plastic bag there. Panko is a coarse breadcrumb. So I'm rolling it down a little bit just to make it a little bit finer. There we go. And then I'm going to roll these lightly in breadcrumbs so that it won't stick together. The breadcrumbs will actually, might even give me a little bit more thickening in my soup. Okay, so I have all of these to roll. You see what I'm up to. And then we'll start sautéing. These breadcrumbs, by the way, obviously are optional. The original recipe doesn't call for it, but typical for me, I like to experiment. You need 6 to 8 cups, 1.4 to 1.9 liters of water or chicken stock. Whenever I can use stock, I always do. However, my stock is frozen because this is homemade stock. This will all fit in that pan, even though it'll look like it's going to be overflowing. So I need to melt my stock first before I start working with my vegetables. I've got a pan heating on the stove here. I'm going to put a few tablespoons of olive oil in there. That pan is hot, it's smoking. I'm using pure olive oil rather than extra virgin because the extra virgin does smoke at a lower temperature. Okay, I turn my heat down and I'm just going to brown these. You can see them browning nicely already. Put some clean oil in that pan. And I'm going to put my vegetables in there. My onions, my carrots, and my celery. And I'm going to saute these over medium heat for just a couple of minutes. I don't have to get them tender and cooked all the way just yet because they're going to be cooked when the liquid goes in there. I think this is called sweating the vegetables. It helps to get more flavor out of them. These now have been cooking for a couple of minutes. I'm going to add a couple of cloves of garlic. These are fairly large cloves, so I'm adding just 2. If you have smaller ones, you can add 4 cloves. So there's my second clove. Beautiful. And I'm going to cook this for at most 1 minute. I'm even going to reduce my heat a little bit. I don't want to brown that garlic. Just want to get it lightly cooked. I'm ready now to start assembling my soup. I turned my heat off because I don't want this to flare up too much. I'm going to put in about 3/4 of my chicken stock here. Okay, I'm going to add more later as I need it. So that's about 6 of the cups, and I'm bringing the heat up. 6 cups is what, 1.4 liters. And then here are my lentils going in. That is 1 pound of lentils, dry lentils. I think they're only ever sold dry. 1 pound is 454 grams. And then lastly, I want to put my Italian sausage in there. And then I'm going to bring this to a boil, reduce the heat to low, and simmer this for about 45 minutes to an hour. I know this is going to need salt, because whenever I make chicken stock or vegetable stock, I always make it without salt, so that I have more ways to use it. All right, so here's my salt. I'm going to put in a good pinch of salt in there. Stir that in to dissolve it. Where's my tasting bowl? It's over here. Okay. I use these little dipping bowls as tasting bowls. Let's see what that tastes like. Very nice. Ooh, that's good. My soup now has been cooking about 30 minutes, so I'm ready to start adding some chopped potato. I'm squaring this off a little bit so I can use this for making a dice. I want to... That's actually too small. Oh, that's all right. A couple of those are okay. I want a diced potato, but I don't want it diced as small as the other vegetables. And I need about a cup of this diced potato. Let's see what I've got so far. There's my 1 cup measure. I'll give you the metric equivalent as soon as I get this cut up and weighed. Turn my scale on, let that zero out. I can put a little bit more in there. 1 more of these, I think. And that should do it. Good. 1 cup of diced potato, which weighs 140 grams. I'm going to put the potatoes in the soup, and at this point all I'm interested in is just getting the potatoes cooked until they're tender without turning mushy, and I'm imagining that's probably not going to take more than 8 to 10 minutes. So I'm going to let my soup cook a little bit longer, so about 8 to 10 minutes before it comes up to 45 minutes, I'll add the potatoes. I've got some fresh basil leaves. I bought some fresh basil and put it in water, hoping to keep it green for a while. This is February. It's difficult to get really good basil this time of year. During the summer, the farmer's market just has so much fresh basil, and it's beautiful basil. What I'm doing is I'm rolling this into kind of a tight roll. I'm fussy when it comes to basil because metal seems to darken basil. So I use a ceramic knife to cut basil. And what I'm going to do is really, really thin slices, like a 1/16 of an inch, whatever that is in metric. Really thin shreds. These are like little threads. This is called chiffonade. Whereas if you cut little strings, that's julienne. And you can put this if you want. You can just chop the basil if you want, and then just put it into the soup a minute or so before serving. Or what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my chiffonade here for garnish on top of the soup when I plate it. So now how I would plate this. Let me see if I can do this without making too much of a mess. Beautiful. And a little bit more soup to that. Nice. That looks so good. And then I'm just going to garnish that very lightly with a little bit of my basil chiffonade. Not much. And there it is. My lentil and sausage soup. The last step is to see how good that tastes. So there is my bowl of lentil and sausage soup. I taste my lentils first. So tender. They just melt in the mouth. And one of my Italian sausage nuggets. Oh. That is a delicious bowl of soup. Okay, excuse me. Just in time for a late lunch, so I'm going to go enjoy my lunch. For a printable PDF copy of this recipe with step-by-step photographs, visit the White Trash Cooking website and look on the home page or in the recipe archive.